Hey everyone, it's Lyndsay Phillips with smoothbusinessgrowth.com, and I'm super excited to be on Scott Carson's Note Closer podcast. And we talk about content marketing and podcasting and how to move your investing business forward and how to build more relationships and authority. We cover a lot.
This is the Note Closer Show, where you get the latest developments in distressed note investing and learn the secrets of how you can control millions of dollars worth of property for pennies on the dollar. Get educated and entertained by someone who has closed thousands of deals and lives to support you in achieving the same. Now, here's your host, CEO of We Close Notes, Scott Carson.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, Scott Carson, excited to be here with you today. And even more excited to have my good friend Lyndsay Phillips join us here. There you go. Yay! She is a rock star, and I've known her for a couple years now. We originally met, I think, out at Podfest 3 or 4 years ago.
It was in Florida.
Yeah, in sunny Florida. Don't we wish we were back in sunny Florida?
I do. And back to live events. Jesus.
I know. Not on Zoom. I think we all are a little zoomed out.
Yeah.
For the most part. And they actually came up with a category or a name I saw the other day of Zoom fatigue.
I can believe it. And brain fog because of Zoom.
Exactly. Well, and as we're sitting here talking, it's not just us. There's so many people out there, and we deal with so many real estate investors, and you deal with so many real estate investors in their marketing side of things. People struggling to get through 2020, and now 2021 was like the ugly twin of 2020.
So true.
It's been an interesting time frame, but I think a lot of people, though, I know that you've done this, you've kind of pivoted a little bit. I hate that word pivot. It's been overused so much this year, or tweaked.
It has, but it's true.
It totally is true about how to get their message out, or how to, I hate to say this, reinvent networking in the new age. You know what I mean? How to build credibility versus just going to your local REIA club and networking, handing out business cards, or going to a conference and sitting next to people. It's a whole different way in this year, right, Lyndsay?
It is. And it's like, people are like, oh, speaking is dead. It's like, it's not dead in any way or form. It's just morphed into online. It's like summits, conferences. People are like taking the stage on Clubhouse, if you will, going live on Facebook or Instagram, podcasts, obviously. And like I just spoke at Podfest on Tuesday online. So it's like, it's the same thing. It's just, we just can't all hug each other and have drinks in person.
I know, right? I mean, virtual happy hours, we've had a few of those, but
yes,
when it's business from the top and then party pajamas on the bottom, I call it
and drink in hand.
Business mullet. Now, let's talk about that. You spoke at Podfest just recently, obviously online. I've spoken at podcasts before. We've done, when everything started hitting the fan, there was virtual summits everywhere that people were taking. And we'll get into Clubhouse a little bit later as well. But for those investors out there that are looking to build an authority or to get the word on their deals, no matter what type of investing they're doing, whether it's note investing or fix and flips, what are you seeing as being the most effective for people to get the word out, to build a following, to raise capital, or things like that with your existing clients or new clients that you're working with?
I think it's like threefold. One is making sure that you're being consistent with your content marketing so that you've got brand exposure and you're top of mind and you're like in people's face all the time, which can be tricky in like, it's like overkill in social sometimes. And you feel like you're kind of lost, but and the other one is really leaning into your authority and making yourself stand out as an expert in a specific thing. Like I find if you're like, oh, I'm a real estate investor, like there's so many things and you're like, oh, I'm going to turn people away if I niche down to like just notes, or I'm going to niche down to just this part. And it's like, you're actually going to attract more if your messaging and your authority that you're sharing is really specific. I even have one guy, Scott, that he does multifamily, but he only targets, and I think I've talked about him before, but he only targets like pilots and people within that industry because he understands them, he can relate to them. And it's like there's different ways of niching, right? And it's just so like, don't fear niching down. And the third one is oh my God, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, is relationship building. And that is, and I think even too, like, we used to be in person, and people are kind of like going back to the basics, really. Like, even going back to like, being on LinkedIn and DMing people and actually having a conversation, DMing people on Facebook, hopping on the phone just to like chat or Zoom or whatever. And instead of like, I'm finding that people are disenchanted with Facebook ads per se because they're just not getting the results. If people are just like, oh, whatever. But it's like you just have to connect with people and kind of like go back to those roots of like what you did back in the day. And yeah, you can't do it in person. Like you were saying, a lot of people in the real estate are going to those meetups and in-person events that are, in their local area. But I mean, you can do it online. And even if you have a podcast that's just, your local, if you're only serving a local area, to network and make those connections and build those relationships. I mean, there's so many great things about podcasting, and there's so many different ways that you can take advantage of the virtual space to build your authority and make those connections. So I know that was long-winded, but
No, but I agree to that. I've been using LinkedIn and sending out invites through Octopus to investors in specific cities that we see deal with, or local, note investors. And I put my Calendly link in there. I say, hey, I'd love to schedule a phone call. And after we finish here, I've got 4 back-to-back calls with people that I've been off of LinkedIn just talking. I had one before we got started here. And it's just getting to know people. It's getting to know you. Getting to know all
I was waiting for that. As soon as you said it, I was like, that's still in the groove.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. Get the groove going, the coffee flowing through the blood. But and I like what you said too about kind of being local. I mean, so many people in the notes, it's nationalized, but if you can bring in local, like I think of our buddies from the Selling Sarasota podcast.
Yeah.
They not only talking about their real estate they're doing, but they start talking about some of the vendors there locally, the businesses that do that. And they've done a really good job with being kind of that very local niche down, real estate podcast or real estate, podcast in a specific area, right?
I know. I mean, you don't have to have a podcast that reaches like the masses. It's like, I have a friend and she does a podcast, and she interviews local like businesses, and and then obviously they're going to share. It's like, oh my God, I was on a podcast. And it's like, the host, looks like a movie star in her area. And like the relationships and the accounts that she's created because of that, it's basically like a sales tactic, not necessarily like a lead gen, trying to get more people, more prospects, more, exposure throughout the USA. So it's like you can, some people think of it just this one way, and it's like there's so many different ways you can leverage those opportunities.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, is if you can be creative, it'll work.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get so bogged down. Like I was on a Clubhouse yesterday speaking about the Clubhouse app, and some guy's like, I want to start a podcast about cars. Okay, what kind of cars? Muscle cars, Asian car, whatever, it might be, imports, whatever it might be, trucks, years, you got whatever, what's your strength? What are you focused about? And that's the beautiful thing. I think so many people get locked down as like, okay, I have to be an educator. No, you don't. You could literally just talk about some of your interests or what you like about the areas, and share your personality. I think personality is what people lack a lot of times when it comes down to it. They try to be a cookie cutter. I want to be an entrepreneur, EO on fire. And I'm like, oh God, we don't need another one.
Try to be Gary V, and it's like, no, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I'm going to drop 20 F-bombs in the first 30 minutes and think I'm Gary V. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when you're working with somebody brand new, Lyndsay, what's kind of your process? And for our listeners out there and those that are watching, you have a process for kind of sitting down and helping dissect their brains or dissect what they're looking to accomplish?
For sure. It's like, and I kind of need to look at the big picture of their sales funnel too. Like, if they already have a bazillion leads and then they just need to really like nurture and convert them, then maybe, doing a podcast that's just for them to really like pull them in the fold would work, or just a video show or whatever that may be. Or, those that they really need to get more top of funnel leads in for lead gen, then I would suggest guesting on podcasts would be easier for them to not only look like an authority, but they're going to get more leads.
Mhm.
Whereas, doing an interview style podcast would be more effective if their goal was to create more relationships, or they would interview people that would be like a potential client or get them further, ahead in their journey. So it's like, it's funny. I get people where it's like, oh, I want to start a podcast. And I'm like, really? I'm like, I mean, I would love for everyone to have a podcast and use me, but um, I'm just like, I think you're better off doing this. Like, and here's why. Or some people that are newish, but they really want to establish themselves as an expert so that they can charge more, or, whatever it may be. So it's like there's different goals, and you really need to, where are you at in your business? What do you need right now to make more money?
Mhm.
And then what's going to like up level your business? It's just, yeah, it's what makes the most sense.
One of the things that helped us out a lot over the last couple of years was, in the note industry, you've got a couple normal conferences everybody goes to. And it's the same people, it's the same speakers. It's literally, you could hit repeat almost and have 75% of the same content from the previous. Okay. And I got to the point where I was like, okay, it does not make sense for me to fly across the country to spend 3 days in an event for an hour and a half speaking spot when I'm going to be speaking into the chorus. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be speaking to really anybody new when I could stay
Right.
home, reach out to a couple of different podcasters and book myself to speak for 30 to 45 minutes, just talking like this
Yeah.
with my peers and being in front of their audiences. It was much more valuable, a bigger bang for the buck for me. And I think, and one of the things I've talking to my students, especially my one-on-one coaches, is like, listen, if you're closing deals, that's what people want to talk about. They want to talk about this case study. So reach out to the different podcasts out there and start, hey, I've got a couple case studies, would you like to interview me about these deals, right?
That's another great approach, is like, is having people on your show that are like, your partners, your deals that you've done, people that you've worked with, where it's like you're sharing stories, but really you're showcasing your genius. And like, because people want to know like behind the scenes, right? Like, how did I close that deal? How did I, have little loopholes? What due diligence did I do? Or like, what negotiating skills have I used? And kind of like sharing all those little secrets and nuances. People want to eat that up, right? But in the interim, you're showing that, you have proven strategies and you have a proven system to like get the thing done. And like the other person's happy because they get showcased. It's like a total win-win. It's genius.
Well, it also shares a lot of those insights, because I think a lot of us as investors, we get so used to terminology or used to doing things that we kind of glaze over some of the things that would be very valuable to those that are brand new. You know what I mean? They're
Totally.
not used to doing, the little intricacies that we think is normal. Is just, old hat for us. They're like, oh, I didn't think about it, reaching out to that person for a deal or looking at that and find something new.
That's true. And we often, I find, like underestimate ourselves. Like I'm kind of like, how are you not doing this? Like it's a no-brainer to me. And then I'll like say something on like a talk or a podcast or whatever. And people are like, oh man, I never even thought of that. Or like, or yeah, I know I should do it. And now I'm going to do it. So it's like, it's part of my daily, like, I'm just like, I've been doing it for years. And to me, my brain, I'm like, it's obvious, but it's not to everybody else. Whereas like a tax consultant maybe be like, oh, it's obvious to write this off. I'm like, I don't think that. I've got no freaking clue. So you can't don't underestimate yourself. Like you have a ton of knowledge and a ton of insight and experience. And we're all unique and different. We all have our own superpowers. So it's like everyone has something to offer. So like for some people that it's like, oh, I can't have a podcast show. Like, what do I have to share? It's like, yeah, you kind of got to get out of that mindset. It's
Now,
hard.
have you embraced the Clubhouse Nation? Have you started
I
jumping?
have not. I don't even have Apple, honestly. I would have to borrow my daughter's phone. How pathetic would that be? I've gotten the invite and I was supposed to sign up on the weekend and I kind of didn't. I, I'm I'm really torn on it. I feel like as an entrepreneur, I'm spread thin as it is. So adding something on, I was like, holy sweet Jesus, it stresses me out. But on the flip side, from an audio podcast perspective, it really is intriguing to me because it's almost like a spawned baby off of podcasting that is this little side thing. So, and some people are getting major traction and getting sales from it and contacts and leads. So I'm kind of like, I can't quite discount it. So I'm sure I will go on the bandwagon in the next week because I have a lot of people that are bugging me. Why aren't you on? We can start chatting.
Well, that's the thing. When I see people that are spending 6 and 7 hours a day on
That's
Clubhouse,
retarded.
I'm like, you must not have anything else to do. And then I'm even seeing some people said something like there's a room, they call it, in the note side of things, and I got on there and I didn't ask to speak. I'm just listening to the people, and I'm like, there is a lot of bad advice being given here. There is some stuff on there. I'm like literally whining. I'm like, Steph's like cracking up at me because I'm like, what? They told this person that? I'm like, it really makes me question the people leading the room.
Oh man.
I'm like, what? And you hear when somebody asks a question, you hear somebody just give some like line of bullshit, and you're like, what? That's a simple answer. The answer to that is yes, not what you gave. And it says, you don't have as much experience as you put out there. You know what I mean? So
But doesn't that make you want to go on there and say, don't listen to all the crap, listen to me?
Yeah, but then everybody says you're an asshole, which I already am an asshole, but but that's like, okay, I'll have another room set up. And we've had some really great things. I think part of the allure Clubhouse is anybody can get on it, which is anybody can get on it. But if you're effective in what I've seen the most work is jumping on somebody else's room. They're opening for questions. I raise my hand to talk about my niche, share my opinion, my authority, get off. And the only really way to grab, I guess you could say, or grab and connect people is they only show your Twitter or your Instagram link, so you can connect on Twitter, which we know that's kind of antiquated. But the Instagram thing, I have seen an increase in Instagram followers, and then the profile they have. It's not the easiest thing to edit, but some people using these long ass profiles with emojis everywhere. I think keeping it clean. I've got a couple links that aren't clickable, but it's easy enough for people to type into their phone. And I've seen that. Actually, I was on the other day and I have this challenge going. I didn't even mention it. And one of the moderators like, oh, we see you have a challenge going. And lo and behold, I had 3 people sign up for it off of a Clubhouse app the other night.
Sweet.
Of course, then I get on and do my own Clubhouse room and nobody shows up to the room.
You're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
But, and I see people that are trying to record it and turn it into podcast episodes. I'm like, okay, I could see that a little bit. But the thing is, it's a lot of people talking. And it's, I see it's more like panels and moderators and stuff like that. Generic and stuff like that. Which is okay.
I think it's cool for like group situations where you're like a panel scenario, because it's a way of partnering and you're pulling in their audiences, my audiences, whoever's, and so you're increasing your exposure. So I guess just like podcasting, really, it depends what your goal is, depends on how you look at it. Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, and I was talking to someone yesterday as well, and it's like, freaking Instagram has like IGTV, regular posts, reels, stories. I'm like, there's 4 things that are all different, like within the same platform. I'm like, for the love of God. And then it's like, you can't be overwhelmed. It's like, find a content strategy that works for your personality, your time, your business goals, and also your avatar. It's like, we could easily all get on TikTok and like, it's not going to happen.
Or
No,
a Dabo
my
on.
daughter's got all the moves. I
That's all I
don't.
see on TikTok is dancing.
I
That's all I see. And I'm like, or what drives me bonkers is the whole, you can't see me, but where basically people just like point to a spot in the screen and words pop up and they
Yeah,
point to another
yeah.
thing.
I
Like,
can't handle it. I
I
can't.
can't handle
And
it.
but I'm with Podfest in the community, like I see all these conversations going on, and there are some talks about how you use TikTok to like grow your podcast. And I do want to look at it just to kind of see what they say, but I'm just like, at some level, I have to like, okay, I can't do everything. And
Right.
where is my ideal client hanging out?
Right.
I don't think my ideal client is hanging out on TikTok. I truly don't. And I don't hang out there, so I can't relate. So, and like Twitter, I'm letting it go. I'm like, bye, Twitter. You're not serving me anymore. I can't handle you. I'm focusing on LinkedIn, and I'm just starting now to like have a plan to like build out Instagram, because I haven't admittedly been that great at it. And Facebook will always still be there, but
Now let's talk
honestly, I
about,
use Facebook more for like communicating with DMs, and just like that personal relationship building part of it.
yeah, I think that's the surprising thing. Facebook becoming more of that personal thing. I mean, if you've got a community, starting a Facebook group is easy to do. Getting that your community to talk, whether it's 10 people or 1,000 people, getting that community to kind of interact and network, especially if you got a podcast or a real estate club or
Yeah,
something
that's
like
it.
that. That's a great, I mean, we've started several different small communities around what we're doing, but you said something really valuable on there. My client is not on TikTok or TikTok, and when you think about your avatar, what are some of the things that you liked, you've done to identify who your ideal client is? I mean, like, I know my avatar is a 35 to 65. It's either male or female. It's like 50% split down the middle. Yeah, college educated homeowner making 75 grand or more per year, sales or CEO or some sort of management level who likes watching HGTV, likes ordering stuff online 2 or 3 times a week. And that's what they're looking for, and they're hot buttons and tag words. I know. So that's done a lot of research to figure that out. But I've even named them Steve and Laura, male and
Oh my
female.
God, you name them and everything. That's awesome.
Because Laura is one of my client or one of my students who's
Yeah.
like likes everything. She's like my biggest cheerleader. Steve's also one of my biggest cheerleaders. I was like, why not? So when I'm recording something or I'm thinking about Steve and Laura. How can I help Steve and Laura out there?
Yeah. I love that. And they say to name it and like give them like an actual personality and stuff, because then you can relate to them, right? And for like, and I go through this exercise with clients before too, and that is like, I ask them a crap ton of questions, and like you just do a brain dump. It's like, think about the best deals that you've ever done. Think about your best clients, not the ones that are a pain in the ass, not the ones that cost you more money than you made. Like, you really have to like, who are the perfect ones that you like? Oh, I want more of, like you. I want more of Laura. I want more of Steve. I don't want Tom, Dick, or Harry because they suck. You want those two. So it's like, and really think about it. Like, what do they do in a day? Do they have kids? Do they have family? Are they busy? Are they watching TV? Are they working late? Are they stuck for time? Are they at the gym? And so therefore, you can use that languaging like, oh, while you're at the gym, like, check out my podcast, so that you're talking their language of what their lifestyle is. What are their likes? What are their dislikes? What are they buying? Where are they hanging out? What social media are they in? Do they watch videos? Do they even listen to podcasts? I mean, if your avatar is like, I don't know, a 60-year-old man, $10 says they're not listening to podcasts, so don't have a podcast. And then same with like, if you're selling, I don't know, women's fancy jewelry, you're not really going to be on LinkedIn. So it just like, you really have to like go through that exercise and like type it and write it all out. It's boring and it's tedious, but it unearths some very interesting information. I actually went through this exercise when I redid my website. That Donald Miller book, Marketing Made Simple, he has like a section where it's like how to do the wireframe of your website. And it's all like that psychology of like, what is the cost of not working with you? like like really narrowing down what your differentiators are and like what is their biggest problem and how are you going to solve it. But the way he words it and the way you do like a brain dump of like all that information, you're like, damn. And it just helps you dial in that messaging and really tap into your avatar. It was unbelievable. And I thought I knew my avatar really, really well until I like just going through that boring exercise and just getting it all onto paper. It was like, oh,
It's
it
very
was really
helpful to
good.
do that. And I think we all need to do a refresh on our marketing, our websites, or things like that. I know that's one of the biggest things that we've done in the last 12 months is starting to tweak some things, not pivot. Hate that word pivot. Retweak and make it more affordable, more available to people out there. You mentioned LinkedIn. What are some of the strategies that you're doing to do more on LinkedIn to connect with your ideal clients on there?
I do like you often get emails where it's like, look at who viewed your profile. And it's like, what social media platform tells you who's looking at, like, if Facebook did that, look who looked at your page today. Wouldn't it be awesome?
Get a little scary
Like,
sometimes.
thank you, LinkedIn. Granted, you have to pay like to like see all of them. But even if you go in every day and you like whatever 5 you're allowed to look at, but then you can like, hey, I saw you checked out my page. Awesome. How come? Like, what do you do? And just ask them questions and have a conversation. And then they even like suggest connections. Like, hey, if you like these people, maybe you'd like them. It's like, it's a no-brainer to me. I'm like, hell's yes. If these people are my avatar and LinkedIn is telling me, ooh, what about these people? I'm like, hell's yes. Save me some time. And I'm like, hey, I see that you're doing this. I helped out a podcaster, I don't know, launch a podcast and blah, blah, blah. Hey, I've got an article that maybe can help you. I mean, don't go into the sales pitch and don't like try to like get on the phone with them. I freaking hate that. But even if you check out like their social media posts, hey, I see that you were asking about this yesterday on your feed. I actually have an article that would really help you. Or I know somebody that can do that for you, and you're serving, you're helping, right? And you're just connecting.
Yeah, and that's the thing is just it's setting aside time to do that too.
I know that's the hard part.
Well,
I don't have that part figured out yet, Scott.
Well, I'm a big fan of Octopus CRM, which is it's a Google Chrome plugin that works with LinkedIn, and I can send about 100 invites out a day. And so what I've done is I go to search, I type in like note investor, real estate investor, marketer, whatever it might be, and I can pull, even down to the city, like real estate investor Atlanta, and I can it pulls a list, and I can hit the Octopus button at the top, and it'll pull those profiles into Octopus, not emails, but their LinkedIn, and it works with LinkedIn messaging.
Ooh.
And I can set up an automatic kind of a form letter, and I say, hey, first name, just wanted to connect with you. I'm a fellow investor looking to connect with other investors. I'd love to talk about what your focus is, and I put my calendar link in there so it's easy to remember. talkwithscottcarson.com. And I send it out every morning. I get up. Okay,
see, and that's more like an authentic approach, right? It's like
not, hey, buy my stuff. Buy my stuff. Now, what's nice is they do have a feature on there after people have like commented or accepted your connection. Then you can send a mass message to them and make it a little bit more automated.
Yeah.
But it's helped grow my LinkedIn connections from about 8,000 to 25,000 people.
Damn.
So it's helped.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But LinkedIn,
I'm even looking at paying for that LinkedIn extra service and you know what too, I think is like reframing your brain to think like, oh, it's social media. It's like, no, it's sales. Like in the end, like the bottom line of like all that communicating and reach out and stuff like that, like you're not dialing for dollars, right, anymore these days. So you're like DMing for dollars, I guess. And so like if you think, okay, that time is my, sales budget or marketing budget or whatever, you just have to like think of it differently, right?
Well, and that's the thing is, you're exactly right. The virtual dialing for dollars now is reaching out on social media and stuff like that. Unless you're in an industry like what I do with buying note deals, a lot of times we're dealing with banks that bankers aren't on their social media or their filters. shut them out. So I'll actually spend one day a month spending 4 or 5 hours dialing for dollars, still calling banks and asset managers. And what's funny is that's the old school of doing things, but they're so appreciative. Like, oh my gosh,
True enough, eh?
they're like, oh my God, yeah. And I've recorded it and turned that into a class actually. And people are amazed at the conversations because I'll be live streaming the conversations and people can watch, be like a fly on the wall. And they're hearing, I'm like, hey, asset managers at bank or bank note sellers are just normal people like you and me both.
Totally. And I bet they hardly get any phone calls anymore these days.
Well, sometimes I get a lot of phone calls, but it's that follow-up aspect of things that most people don't follow up. And we actually had a conversation with Carrington Mortgage out of California, and they're like, oh, we get phone calls all the time, people looking for notes. But rarely do they follow up on LinkedIn with an email and more phone calls. So like we know that you're serious about what you're doing.
Yeah. Fair enough. Interesting. Persistence pays off.
It does pay off. Now, if you had to start over again, I'm going to like to say magical Armageddon, okay? And you had to start over marketing again in today's world, but knowing what you know from your past, but had to restart, okay? What would be the one or two things that you would start off immediately doing?
It took me a bit to get a decent website up and going. I think that it's like the one-stop shop. And I had no clue about like messaging. Do you know what I mean? And understanding your avatar and like, I'm sure people went to the website and were like, what do you do? How can you help me? So really just thinking about like reading your website from a buyer's or seller's or someone else's perspective. How are you not like everybody else? How are you are you stating the problem so that you relate? And then what is the solution in a clear way? Like spell it out. And like that old school features and benefits.
What's that?
I know, right? But it's like, and the other thing is, which I didn't do earlier on, is like call to actions. It's like, I was too afraid to ask. It's like, no, ask, like, tell them, like, click here to book a call, or like ask people in DMs, hey, let's hop on the phone. Like, you don't have to say it in a salesy way, or like, oh, I've got this master class coming up. Check it out, right? Like you still like, you're not going to say register now. But like in a DM. And then same with on the website, right? Like having a sidebar where it has like your lead magnets, have a pop-up, have call to actions in your blog and your podcast post. Because you need to like, go do this now. You need to have call to actions, or you're just an educational platform and you're not capturing leads and you're not converting. So I would have like kind of clued in and done that earlier if I had to redo it.
That makes sense. Where would you be sharing content at these days? If you had to
You're
start
going to ask me that. I wish I resisted LinkedIn and hated LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And it's honest to God only been in the past few months where I'm like, you're winning me over, Mr. LinkedIn. Screw you, Facebook. And so really, like, I wish I had have not resisted and really kind of, figured out how I can leverage it better earlier.
Makes sense. I mean, and that's the thing is, I think the one thing that LinkedIn has failed horribly on, totally failed with COVID and everything, was the fact that they still don't have a clear and concise way to get approved for LinkedIn Live. You know what I mean?
I know.
They just, I have people that don't do hardly any video that got approved. I've applied 3 times, can't seem to get anybody over to respond. And it's just weird random stuff. And if they were smart, they would have opened up a whole lot more people, because I really feel that took them a step
missing
back.
That element. Absolutely. I mean, they don't have to go all whole hog and like try to compete with every platform on the face of the planet.
Right.
But you can't deny that video helps build trust and your credibility and those kinds of connections. Like that piece of it, I think they're failing.
Yeah, definitely. Now they're adding the story method to LinkedIn. Like, don't do that.
Don't tell me that.
Yes, it's
crazy.
Yes. I think it's going to fail horribly on LinkedIn.
That's what I mean. Like LinkedIn is about communicating and connections in a professional business arena. And so like uh, to me, stories is more about grabbing attention
Yeah.
rather than building a relationship, where video is more about that connecting. Get your
I,
priorities right, LinkedIn.
Well, but video does help. I mean, when you've got, I mean, even short videos, 2 to 5 minutes long, doesn't need to be long. You can use that inside of the LinkedIn side of uploading videos directly there. But still, the video tells a lot more personality when you're people. Now, they're LinkedIn live to a business page. Okay, great. But the point being, I think so many people these days, as we said about the connection, the DMs, we're connecting with individuals who may be the entrepreneurs at companies, not just a logo. It's the personalities, the people that attract us, and that I think that's what separates. And I think that's a competitive advantage for small businesses, small investors, is that they can be more, I like to say, agile, mobile, and hostile in be that little bit that stands out versus the big conglomerate
Yeah.
firm. People like dealing with the underdog. You know what I mean?
I know, and I think people are feeling disenchanted by everything is sponsored, like Instagram. Like there are some sponsored stuff on LinkedIn, but not as prevalent. And so I feel like people are like, stop selling to me. Like they just want to connect with a normal human being.
Tell us a story. Tell us something funny. Tell us something unique. It's not the same old shouting into the abyss that so many people are doing.
I know.
And it's sad that way. But I think video is the one thing out there that I think it can be, if you're using more video these days, it can be kind of the one-stop kind of origination shot for your content in a lot of ways. What do you
Totally.
think about that?
I know you're awesome at video. I admittedly fight it mainly because of my time. I just don't have the friggin' time. I need to make time. But yeah, I mean, you can go live on Facebook, interview someone, and then it like go to YouTube. You can use repurpose.io and I have it go to IGTV, the Square version, strip the audio for a podcast. I mean, and then you're, using Facebook's algorithms. And then it's like you're leveraging it. It's like you're killing 5 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah. Well, that's what we've seen. That we've actually saw a few months where we got more views on YouTube than we saw downloads on our podcast, which is surprising.
Interesting.
And and as I've surveyed my audience at different events that we teach or classes, I always ask them, say, how do you watch the podcast? And they're like, we listen to it some of the time, but we actually watched a lot more, especially this last year where people are at home, they'll put a video on and watch it versus podcasting, and that's the thing that we've had to tweak a little bit this year. Was like, okay, let's make sure we keep cranking out in video, even if the podcast gets delayed a little bit, we're still cranking out video content on a regular basis. And
Yeah. And I think too, again, going back to that conversation before where we're split in so many directions, so many social media platforms, videos, podcasting, it's like, oh my God. But like really, like I'm all about leveraging the hell out of one thing. It's like my talk on Podfast was, how to make your podcast, how to gold mine it to make it your one-stop content marketing strategy, because you can leverage the hell out of it for social media. Any of the things that we just talked about today, you can go do 3 little 2-minute videos to touch upon those things because you're reusing and recycling the topic or the content. And then, if you do video, you can pull the audio, like you can manipulate it and reuse it so that you're not freaking killing yourself.
Yeah. One of the things I think that most people forget about is I always, we talk about email marketing and what to say. And I'm like, listen, just get out and start talking about your past case studies or deals that you're working on, or deals that closed. Or worst case, go to the peers, go to the websites of the peers in your industry and look at their FAQs and do a short video on each question asked. And I think that works well because that's what people are asking a lot of times.
Totally.
Great searchable.
It's the obvious one.
Exactly.
Another good tip is to go to your competitors or industry leaders on YouTube. And you can actually see which videos they have that have the most views. And then you're like, ooh, clearly that topic resonates. And then go do one of your own. Or like you're going to have your own voice to it or your own spin or whatever. But then that topic resonates. And that's what people want to hear about.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And using ask. Oh my God, not ask the audience, but yeah, it is. Was it ask the audience? I can't even think what it is. Where you can go type in a question, it pulls up all the different questions.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh my gosh, I use this pretty often. I used this the other day. Ask the public. That's it. Ask the public.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Oh my gosh, ask the public. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So you type in a question and it pulls up the most questions that are associated with the who, the what, when, and where with a specific topic. And it is a gold mine when I run out of topics.
Yeah.
And it literally, you'll get like 2 or 3 searches a day for free before you have to sign up for it. But that's really usually enough for you to look at and identify topics that are trending, keywords and stuff like that too.
Totally.
There's a realtor buddy of ours, and I use the word buddy loosely there, of ours, who used to record videos, and he would put the keyword, and it usually shows the first 50 characters on a search thing. So you've got another 50 characters that don't show up. So what he would do when he recorded a video, he would go look for any type of trending keyword on Twitter. If it was Britney Spears or Justin Bieber or anything like that, he would add that to the last part of, and I was like, he would get all these views, but they weren't the right type of views.
No. And remember, people don't do this anymore, I don't think, but like people were using that software for Instagram where it like gets you like thousands of followers. But then it's like, someone from another country that is maybe not appropriate for being onto your feed.
Yes, 16-year-old boys in Thailand don't make good followers for somebody in. And I had a mentor of mine who was all excited about his Instagram account.
Woo, I have 12,000 people.
Yeah, and I'm like,
yeah, but they're all like, no.
Yeah, no, that's not how you do it.
No, drives me nuts.
What's the what that brings me to this? That's a pet peeve of mine. But when I see that, what's one of the pet peeves that you see people doing that just drives you bonkers? That just like, oh, come on now. Come on, man.
I have a few. My biggest is like when I'm scrolling through feeds or whatever, and there are some entrepreneurs, it's like the only pictures that they're sharing are like these beautiful posed photographic pictures of themselves. Like, look at me, I'm gorgeous, I'm a pillar of success, therefore I'm going to make you the same. And to me, I'm like, that's a fake veneer. Like, it just infuriates me. Granted, I'm like, damn it, I don't look like her, but like that pisses me off too. But I'm kind of like, I don't know. I would rather connect with someone that like has no makeup on, but actually has stuff to say, or like is like real. Like you and I speak the truth, and it's like, if you don't like what I say, or like I'm not perfect, I don't profess to be perfect, and like we're just like normal, say it like it is kind of people, I'm like, I would much rather connect with someone like that.
Yeah, that's the thing is you see a lot of there's a couple of things. If I see a woman basically doing fish lips and she's got nothing but like selfies.
Oh God.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, not following. Or the guys that are constantly showing like their 6-pack abs. That's been the biggest thing I see these days is people, the guys throw their abs up there, and it's the personal trainers like, hey, how's it going, man? I'm like, you're going to pitch me in your second message about trying to train me remotely. And I'm like, whoever is teaching you this is the wrong way of doing it. I don't need to see your 6-pack abs. Don't care about it. You're very shallow. Content doesn't do me any good. Unfollow, block.
You need to be authentic. You need to be like you can't try to be like, I mean, even like Frank Kern, like he's like huge, but he's just like goofy guy on his phone.
Hi.
Sure, he has a beautiful wife and he has like an amazing home and stuff like that, but it's not like he's like, he's not like he talks normal, like you could just have a conversation with him. And I'm like, okay, that I can respect. We're like, not to badmouth any of them, but like Grant Cardone, I don't love him. He looks obnoxious and unapproachable. That's just me. And so it's like, and like, yeah, like all the pictures, all like, manly and I don't know. It's just, so I would rather have someone that's like genuine and like a normal human being that I could like go have a beer with and talk shop.
Well, that's the thing about Frank. I've had a beer or two with Frank before at traffic
nice
summits and stuff like that. And yes, he has a beautiful wife who was in the cover of Vogue magazine somewhere. And but I think he only shared a photo of that. Usually he's talking about him drinking scotch or bourbon.
Oh yeah,
or
his dog or whatever.
high as a kite on, he pokes fun of that at every event he speaks at. But the thing about Grant Cardone, he has been big on Clubhouse, and he's one of those people that gets on there and spews general like stuff, information that doesn't make any sense. It's like the thing. Here's a great example. I don't mind because he's such a thing. Him and one of his buddies, one of his sales guys, were on there the other day talking about real estate investing. And some lady got on there, brand new investor, says, "Hey, I'm working at a job. I have a 401k. They match 100% up to 6%. Should I keep contributing to that, or should I take what's left over and go out and try to save it elsewhere?" And the number one thing is like, that's free money. It's tax money. If you don't contribute, you lose it. If you're there for a while, I'm like, that's perfect. 100% return on your money. Can't beat that right now. And they're like, "Oh no, stop contributing to 401k and go buy real estate." I'm like, the little bit of difference that she would get wouldn't allow her to buy anything at real estate. I'm like, and there's just stuff that people like that throw out there. I'm like, you're not listening. You're not really adding the conversation. You're just here, and everybody's all got a freaking boner because it's Grant Cardone on a thing. Pardon my words, but it feels like that way. It's all a bunch of like, yes, man. Oh, look who's on. Look who's on. I'm like, I don't give a rat's ass. He hasn't helped me. He's not helping you.
No. And it's just not my jam.
Yeah.
That's a huge pet peeve.
Yeah, definitely. What's the, you're doing a lot with entrepreneurs. You're doing a lot with investors out there. You've got some services that are really helping people get beyond that mind block of getting things going. You want to talk a little about some of the services that you're doing for people and helping people take that next step from being a wannabe to being
a wannabe? I know. Be authentic. We are really focused on content marketing, obviously, and podcasting. And it's like we spoke about earlier, whether you're guesting or you're doing your own show or a video show, or, you're interviewing people, it's like, you want to boost your credibility and your authority and have that consistent exposure to, grow your business. And so we obviously launch podcasts. We do, if you're a guest, we do all the promotion and the tracking and the stats and all that kind of stuff, and then promote podcasts, leverage it. And we do obviously, deal with clients in regards to like sales funnels and like their overarching content marketing strategy. But yeah, like to me, I would be like, consider having a podcast or guest podcasting and, getting in that stream, because it's just so prevalent. Like you can't ignore it. And again, if you're doing videos, you can leverage it and use it as a podcast so that you're tapping into more audiences. And yeah, we do all of that and love it.
Yeah. And it's not expensive as well too, for what you're doing. You've got a lot of great templates and things that you're putting together.
I wish I had cookies, Scott. I could go.
Yeah.
For a cookie right
What's your favorite cookie, by the way?
I like the mint chocolate Oreos, like the mint ones. But homemade chocolate oatmeal is my fave.
Mine's is a good chocolate chip cookie, big chunks of chocolate where it's like smearing on your face.
Gooey in the middle. My daughter made some last night. They were fantastic.
Not good for the diet. Not good for the diet in 2021. But yeah, what's the best way for people to connect with you, to find out what you're doing, or to sign up for your services and help them take that next step in this new year that's already a sixth of the way done, basically?
I know. Well, if they go to smoothbusinessgrowth.com/Scott, we actually have 2 weeks of free content. So blog, video scripts, social media, graphics, specifically targeted to real estate investors. So they can go ahead and just swipe and deploy for 2 weeks and check out that content. And of course, if they go to smoothbusinessgrowth.com, they'll see free resources. They'll see our services. We've got like a podcast launch checklist, podcast promotion checklist. Tons of great resources. I love giving and sharing info, and it's like, I just love it.
There's that old school thing, and we see that in real estate investors where the old guard is like, oh, you can't give any away for free. It's my stuff. I have to charge for everything. And I've actually had conversations with some of my competitors about this, and like, oh, the old school, we don't give away everything. I'm like, well, you know what? It's the new school. It's everything is out there. You've got to give some value and show value to your tribe. because that's the way you attract new people these days. If you're
I
not
know. They need to know that you actually know your stuff and, get a taste for what it is that you do so that they can trust you more, because
Right.
people are not as trustworthy or trusting as they used to be. And so, and you have to show that you care and that you want to help people.
Well, that's why we love having you on here, Lyndsay, because you do that.
Aw, that's why I love chatting with you. You're
Yeah,
awesome.
same
You're a
here. I
giver.
mean, that's the thing is you're one of the most well-connected people, and you and Stephanie Lahart are two of the amazing people out there we've met at Podfest, and do a lot with connecting with people and going from there, and really having a heart to help people connect and do things bigger, do things on a whole other scale. And it's not so difficult to take that next step. It's progress is always built one step at a time. And you do
Exactly.
a great job working with people and helping people take that step and really get to an amazing place that's a lot easier for them to get to if they just take that first step.
Aw, thanks.
Awesome. Love you too, darling. All right, guys, that is going to wrap it up for this episode of the Note Closer Show. Check it out. Smooth. What's the website again, Lyndsay?
smoothbusinessgrowth.com/Scott for free content, and then just smoothbusinessgrowth.com for everything else.
Get there, check it out, download the templates, put it to work. We've had Lyndsay on Note Camp before last year. She'll be on again this year's one of the top rated speakers from Note Camp out there. And so if you're looking to do something different, you're stuck at home, bored because you're not getting any deals, not finding any money or funding or whatever it might be, hey, it's time to tweak your marketing, take it to the next level, and Lyndsay can be that guiding hand to take you there. So go out, take some action, everybody, and we'll see you all at the top, everybody. Bye.